Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Johnny Mac, I want to go right to the injuries. Eagles took a lot of injuries in that game. I know we're all happy, Johnny Mac's not, but I am, that they got the win. They're 2-1. But you come out of there with a lot of injuries, Johnny Mac. Any update on those injuries?
I'm not unhappy they got the win.
No, you're in the middle. You don't give a shit either way.
Yeah.
You say that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, Britton's going to be out for a while, probably up to 6 weeks, and got a broken bone in his shoulder. And we'll see eventually when I get to see him exactly. But he did confirm that he's going to be out for a while. Slate is fine. At least he tweeted it, posted it, whatever it's called, on X.com. So they seem to have dodged a bullet there. Mekhi Becton will get a better indication. Finger injury. Now, I mean, typically, worst case scenario, even if you get a finger operated on, most offensive linemen are gonna, put it in a cast and try and play with it. Might be a week at the worst case scenario, but I wouldn't think that would be long term. Just pure speculation from that standpoint. And then the concussion protocol with Lane and Devontae. I mean, that's out of the Eagles' hands, literally. Coaches aren't allowed to talk about it because it's not up to them. The NFL set up this concussion protocol for better or worse. There's still not a lot of definitive answers when it comes to concussions, and they affect people different ways, and everybody's got a balanced sort of starting point that they look at, and it's different for different people. Generally, it's hard to get through protocol in a week these days. So I say that generally, if you do, and there are people that do, they generally don't have a long history of concussions. So I would say if one had a chance to get through this week through the protocol, it would probably be Devontae more than Lane. But I would say less than 50-50 on both easily, because just in general these days, it's hard to get through concussion protocol in a week.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll see what they're going to have. But I mean, John, it does look like for a second here, they could go into the game with Paris Campbell, Jahan Dotson, and Johnny Wilson as your wide receivers. That's not the greatest wide receiver crew, John.
Prepare to give away another jersey because it's got to be
Yes.
Saquon all day.
Yeah, literally going to be Saquon all day. Boy, big workload for him early in the year here.
Huge workload. That's
He's come
one
down
of the
a little bit
issues.
last week, but
Yeah, I mean, is it sustainable? Nobody touches it that much these days, so I would say it's probably not sustainable. And they're going to need to piecemeal it a little bit better, but they're trying to win games. It's easy if you have a 2-touchdown lead and you can just take them out of the game and cut it down that way. Obviously, you don't want to be 2 touchdowns down, but same thing would affect. So maybe at some point it takes care of itself, but right now it's a lot of touches.
Yeah, it's a lot of touches, no doubt. And Dallas Goedert, he'll be asked for a big workload in this week as well, especially if you're going to miss, those two guys. I still think maybe Devontae can get back. We'll see. That was a hard hit. So obviously, as you mentioned, the concussion protocols, it's a way different thing. But what about AJ Brown, John? Have you heard anything on AJ Brown? That this went from a hamstring tweak, or whatever it was. It was
Well, it obviously wasn't a tweak. That's how Nick described it. I mean, obviously it wasn't a hamstring tweak.
Obviously
He actually called it tightness, is exactly what Nick said. He felt some tightness. You have grades of hamstring strains, and obviously he had a hamstring strain, and it's not something you want to mess with a fast guy. And, he told Lisa Salters a couple of weeks. So does a couple of weeks mean Atlanta and
New
New
Orleans.
Orleans, or does it mean a couple of weeks after he talked to Lisa Salters, which
Right.
would
New Orleans,
mean
Tampa.
New Orleans and Tampa? They do have the bye week. So I think there's some strategy in it and say, do you really want to push it before the bye week? And then you got a bye week to give them all that time to get back to 100%. I would err on the side of caution early in the season and knowing it's probably going to be pretty ugly in Tampa from a passing perspective, especially if you don't have DeMonte. But we'll see. If they don't have DeMonte, that might change the Eagles' thinking, saying, well, we might have to risk. If and I'm that's a bad word, not risk, but they wouldn't put him out there if he's not healthy. I'm just saying because of that bye week, they might err on the side of caution. So I don't think you can play it cautious if you don't have DeMonte Smith. Is what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. So if he's ready, I'm not going to play it cautious. I'm going to play him. But if there's any issues, of course, you keep him out.
Yeah, it's going to be a big week for Jahan Dotson, who, I watched the Eagles unscripted that they put out. This was before the game. Not a lot of confidence in Jahan Dotson, even on the Eagles' own media channel, where they're like,
What they said?
Javon's still trying to get up to speed to see if he can be an impact. I'm like, he's clearly not ready to be an impact on this team. And you've seen it through the first 3 games. He hasn't done much for us, even with everybody out. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this week with those 2 big names looming on the injury list. We'll see if they can play in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. John.